Hey, welcome everybody. It's the latest webcast from the Folly Star Foundation's Yoda Guy movie exhibit here in St. Martin. I'm Nick Maley. People call me that Yoda guy for having spent some time working on Yoda. I'm a creature effects designer and also an artist, and that's enough about me. This is another Folly Star Foundation presentation, which we do every Sunday. We're webcasting about creative techniques and about outstanding personalities, and these shows are for our patrons or our supporters or creative minds who are just inquisitive everywhere. And today's panel it features Frank Ippolito. He's an all-round effects guy, really, prop maker, effects makeup artist, costumer as well. And so he's the CEO of THINGERGY. You may know him from Face Off or Adam Savage's Tested, but he's been making stuff for Pirates of the Caribbean and The Force Awakens and Stranger Things and The Mandalorian too. So today we're going to have a look around his workshop, and this is a professional workshop, industry workshop. So it's kind of nice to look around there. Creativity is what we focus on at the Folly Star Foundation. We're trying to encourage young people to follow their dreams and old people to get out of the chair and pursue that interest before they run out of time or energy to do it. And so with no more ado, let's get on and see Frank.
Yes, so you're in your workshop right now at THINGERGY?
Yeah, THINGERGY. Yeah, we're closed down because we're a non-essential business in Los Angeles, so we're not allowed to be open. But I still come in here. I've been working on estimates for some projects that are gonna, pop up as soon as the quarantine's done. But right. Yeah, I've been rearranging the shop too and kind of cleaning up. So
yeah, what a great name! I really like THINGERGY. I just think it's imaginative and it's fun at the same time.
We try to have fun.
Yeah, well, but don't we all? That's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I was making horror movies, people used to say to me, "Doesn't your work give you nightmares?" I say, "No, the nightmares are the people I have to work with."
Exactly right. The nightmares are the accounting department when you want to get paid.
Well, that can happen too. So we've got a few photos that I pulled up for the website of you. I don't imagine, since we didn't get any photos from you, I don't imagine on your little app you can load anything, can you?
Well, what I had figured is that a lot of people have been asking me to kind of show them around the shop because I haven't really shown the shop off a ton since we moved in here almost 2.5 years ago. Well, once we got in, we kind of hit the ground running on shows, and literally every project has some sort of non-disclosure on it. So it's been really, really hard to kind of open the doors to this. But I hid a bunch of the stuff that I can't really talk about. And I could, kind of show you guys around and show you like some of the stuff that we do, and we could talk about some of the.
I think that would be a lot of fun. But let's start at the beginning, because what I like about you that is the story that is true to most people. You may not know this about me, but my nonprofit is all about encouraging people to follow their dreams, be all they can be, and not being into society that tells them they should get a proper job, and you shouldn't do that because it's not, you're the wrong sex or you're the wrong height or whatever else. So So, what really works for me is the story of how someone starts out with a passion and nothing but enthusiasm. And I read something on your bio where they were talking about how you started out as a nerdy kid, making stuff in a garage or whatever else.
I actually have the very first mask that I made when I was a kid.
You do? Let's see
I have
that.
it sitting here in the office.
Yeah, let's see it.
Flip the camera. So right over here in this cabinet, that's the mask I made when I was 10 years old. I sculpted it out of clay, made a plaster mold, put latex in it. And so there you go.
Wow. There are things that I made all years ago that I wish I still had. Most of the stuff, that kind of historical stuff, gets lost along the way. But hang on to it, because ultimately, as an artist, people come to me and they say, "Oh, you're so talented." And I want to say to them, just take a look at what I built the first time. What I made the first time. It was perseverance and learning. You can't get to be better at what you do unless you can see what is wrong with what you've just done. Anyway, that's cool. So tell me about the history of how you got from that nerdy kid to actually starting to make movies.
Well, I mean, I saw the making of Thriller, and that kind of showed me that people actually had this for a job. And I think this is a similar story for a lot of people in my generation. You see Rick Baker and all his crew, making the zombies, and then the curtains kind of pulled back. And then I found some in the back of a Fangoria magazine, kind of a how to make masks, and that's how I made that mask. And then eventually, worked with some other local friends that kind of had the same interest. And we just kind of practiced and did this stuff for fun, worked in haunted houses, kind of practiced our craft that way.
Halloween almost. But it's a matter of that, of how you take that passion and build on it to break through. I'm comparing this with my journey, just to get that definition from you. For me, the first thing was to be able to get into the industry, and the second thing was to get beyond being in the industry to the point like you are right now, where you've got a business where people are coming to you and you've got projects regularly enough not to be worrying about how you can feed yourself.
Well, to be honest, I never wanted to own a business. When I got into this, I moved to Los Angeles in 2000, and through a couple of friends, they kind of connected me with shops, and I was working as a mold maker and doing various things, worked on a bunch of films and TV shows. And then I started getting like my own little side jobs, and eventually I needed a little bit of help, and eventually I needed a little bit more room, and then that just kept going and going, and here I am owning a business. Owning a business sucks. Like, you have to deal with insurance and compliance, and now I have to deal with trying to keep the doors open during a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
Owning a business is not necessarily what I ever sought out to do. It's kind of what I fell into doing, and I happen to be okay at it. I think I make a little bit more good decisions than bad, so that keeps me afloat.
And you learn from bad decisions along the way.
Oh, absolutely. But I got into this because I like making stuff. I like being around this stuff. This is my passion. So whether it's owning a company or working, in my garage by myself, I don't care, as long as I get to do this stuff.
Yeah, for me, it was when I got to the point where I was having huge projects where I need to have 70 people working in my department. And what was happening was, what I hated about that was that I started, instead of being the guy who was making stuff, when you've got a job and there's 4 of you, you make the stuff and you send it out. When you've got 70 people, you're spending all your time walking around telling those people that they're not making the stuff that you wanted them to make, and then talking to the head, to the producer, who calls you to a meeting to find out why stuff isn't why stuff isn't finished yet, which they only gave you half the time. You have to explain to them it's because you didn't give me the money, or you didn't give me the materials, or because you keep calling me to these meetings. That running bit side of it can really spoil it for people who love to make things.
Yeah, and for me, being a vendor, not a department under the production, there's another layer of that where if you're just a department, you say I need 10 people to work, and they say, all right, you got 10 people for 6 months or whatever it is. If I have to tell them that I need another like $4,000 because I got to bring in another person for a week or two, that they lose their shit, because they don't see it as, like, when they pull another person on a payroll, it's a totally different line item in their brain than cutting me a check for money. So like being a vendor versus being on production's dime is also a total different set of hurdles.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So asking the question, how did you get into the business? That time where you went from being an enthusiast to being able to say, I've done my first professional job. I'm a professional.
Yeah. It's kind of a fuzzy line when you go from an amateur to professional, because like, what kind of a project do you consider being a professional? Is it anytime somebody pays you to do something, or is it when a studio pays you to do something, or like where is that? But I guess the easy answer is when did I work on like a movie or TV show here in Los Angeles that everybody saw? And that was pretty soon after I moved to LA. Right before I was in LA, I lived in New Jersey, and I was a mold maker for a toy company called McFarlane Toys, and they made like all the Spawn action figures and stuff like that. And I did that for about 2 years. And so when I left McFarlane, I got a call from a toy company in Los Angeles that needed a mold maker, and I had a pretty good reputation. So I moved out here and was the mold maker there. And they kind of went belly up after about 6 months. They just didn't run the business really well. So because I had met some people and made some friends, as a mold maker for the toy industry, they said, hey, we're working on this movie called Reign of Fire, and we have to mold all of these big giant dragon maquettes. And you're pretty good with molding detailed things. And so I started working at the shop called Film Illusions, and I molded and cast all these dragon maquettes for Reign of Fire. And so that was my first project. And then from there, through meeting other friends and stuff like that, I started working on, I worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer on the TV show there. I was like, this is all like low man on the totem pole stuff. Like, I was the guy cleaning up castings or scrubbing out molds or whatever.
Well, that's how you start.
Yeah, and so I did that for a bunch of years, and then eventually I became friends with a bunch of makeup artists, like V. Neal and Joel Harlow, Kevin Haney, and I started working on their projects, working as a makeup lab tech, doing sculpting and molding and casting for prosthetics, and that's where I ended up working on Chronicles of Riddick and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right. Those are great movies and great credits to have.
Oh, they were so good. They were such an adventure to work on too, because this was me in like my late 20s, I guess. So I was still like a young little idiot out here, just kind of running around having fun, and building memories and learning how to do stuff and learning the ins and outs and stuff. So
yeah, it's different in obviously we've got a time difference between my time of starting and your time of starting, and there's also the difference that until we got to the time when Rick Baker started his own kind of factory workshop. People didn't do that in the States. It wasn't,
well, it was actually a little bit before
that kind of setup until later on. It was a big step to say, okay, I'm a makeup artist, I work at home, I've got some stuff in the garage, to saying I'm now going to rent a commercial space and set it up as a workshop and be responsible for paying the rent and paying all the bills when there's no work.
Well, Rick was probably the most forward of the people that did that. But I think the big change came with Tom Berman when he was working. I think after Planet of the Apes, he was working with what was his name, John Chambers, and Tom Berman was the first one to start a shop outside of the studio system. Partially because they were working on the CIA disguises, but also partially they were doing stuff in a non-union capacity, and so that change right there is when it went from being a studio-based makeup department to a vendor-based makeup department.
The difference that for me, getting to make movies, the big hurdle first of all was getting in the union so I could get on the list and people could ask me to make movies.
That's changing again. Yeah, that changed with Tom Berman. Like, he's the one that made all of these effect shops non-union because he did that. And then after that, Rick and Greg Canham and Steve Johnson and Rob Bottin and all those guys, Stan Winston, they all had shops, and none of them became union signatories. And actually, just last year, I became the first union signatory shop that does specialty costumes. And I also joined the props signatory. So we're the first shop of our kind that's also a union signatory. I did that partially because I wanted to provide benefits and healthcare for my employees, because no other shops do this. You go work for Legacy or or K&B or something like that. You don't really get pension. Yeah, and all these people that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years, none of them have a pension or health care. And so I sought out the unions and I said, hey, can we work out a deal? And so we cut a really good deal. And now my shop, we're trying to kind of pave the path to get shops to become signatories, because there's no reason that all of us shouldn't enjoy the benefits of the union when like 99% of this industry is union driven and gets those benefits.
Yeah, well, actually, in the UK, we were all part of the union and we didn't get those benefits either. But we have the benefit that healthcare is provided in the UK. It's not the same as in the US, where
the US is all goofy. Like, what are we going to do?
So that's cool. So you, so that I'm understanding. So you basically went and worked in various people's shops at, outside. You went, you people maybe got to know more about you through Tested and Face Off, and then you went on to be making, all of these various things for lots of other movies too, including The Mandalorian. Tell us more about what you can tell us about what you've been doing, and take us on this tour of your shop.
Yeah, here, let me flip the camera, and I will kind of give you a little walkthrough. So this is my office where I sit and do all of the real boring paperwork and bids and stuff. And then here's our conference room, which I kind of have. This is mostly, collections of fun stuff. This isn't necessarily things that we've worked on as the shop. This is actually something I get asked about a lot. These are all the paints that I used when I worked on The Force Awakens, when I was working for Phil Tippett, and we made the chess set puppets. I saved all my little cups of paint, and so this is all the paint that I used to paint the 8 chess set puppets for Force Awakens.
Cool.
So then down the halls here, we have our computer lab where we do our 3D modeling, and then down here is all of our 3D printers. We have about 14 different printers that all do sort of various things. We got a real big one over there. Nothing's going on right now, but so there's our printers, and then this is kind of a bird's eye view of the costume part of the workshop, but I'll get down there in a second. So here's our start of our kind of displays. These are things that I made back when I was working on with Adam Savage and Norm over at Tested. So I made Adam an Admiral Akbar, and this is my copy. So this was out of original. This is a remold of an original casting that Adam had found, and so this is about as original and accurate as a calamari is ever going to get. And then someone had mentioned before about my Lego figure. So this is the Lego guy that I made, and then I made an animatronic Zoidberg too. So this is stuff I did when I was working with Tested. And then in here is some of the displays we've done for various video game companies. We worked on some stuff for a video game called Destiny. Then here's stuff from Star Wars Battlefront. And then there's a helmet from For Honor, which is an Ubisoft game. And then getting into Mandalorian, this is Fennec's helmet. And then this is Gideon's armor. So when we build stuff here at the shop, we'll make a paint master for here at the shop. So if production were to come in and say, hey, we need another one of these helmets or another piece of this armor, we make a copy of a lot of the things that we do, so that way we know how to build it again the next time. Because if sometimes we'll forget, and it's easier to have an actual copy.
Yeah, and you need something to match to anyway. Just you can say, oh yeah, it was approximately that green, but it doesn't make it better.
Exactly. Yeah. And then this is actually Davy Jones's heart from Pirates of the Caribbean. Between part 2 and part 3,
did you make that?
Yeah, I worked on the crew that made it. It was sculpted by Joel Harlow, and I believe it was painted by Joel and Richard Redlison. But I did all of the maintenance on it. I cast the skins, and I made the molds and everything. And so between 2 and 3, they asked me to put a new skin on the animatronic heart, and so I kept the skin from the original one. So this is the original skin from part 2 from the animatronic hero heart, and so that's kind of fun. And then these are my copies of a couple of the little stop motion puppets from when I was working at Phil's. They gave me permission to pull the copies of these two. So these are kind of fun. This is the silicone puppet, and it's got the armature in it. And then we built some awards for different things like Red Bull and NASCAR and stuff like that. So that's what those things are. We have a full body 3D scanner in the back, and so we could scan an actor and then mill out a foam body form like this. So that way we can build the costumes to fit them just right. And so we have the scanner and the mill and everything. And so this is kind of what we do that. And here's just some creatures from various projects that we did. And this is a mask I sculpted for a company called Immortal Masks. Those are really good guys. Then there's a TV show on Netflix called Umbrella Academy, and we built the CGI input models. And so basically, Miles Tevis sculpted this, and then I painted it, and then this was used on set for reference for the CGI department. So they would, do their pass with the tracking suit, and then they would do, the chrome and gray balls, and then they would come in and they would have this, so that way they could see how the light kind of reflects off of things, and it really helped bring that character to life in Umbrella Academy.
When you've got something like that could have been done as a suit, how do you feel about it when people decide, oh no, they don't want to do the suit, they want to do it digitally instead?
Well, I don't know that this character could have been done as a suit. I think that you would have had to change a lot of the proportions in a way that didn't work. And I think that doing it full CG like this is the correct way to do it. Weta Digital is the ones that actually did the CG on it. And when it comes to, apes and monkeys and chimps and all those things, I think that, it's just top notch, and, you can't get much better than that. At least I say that now, but yeah, just proportionally, anatomically, you can't really put a person into a suit and make him look correct as a chimp. He would have to be, you would have to take some liberties with, where his hands are.
You have to cheat the joints and extend and build the hands. And although I think it's been done pretty well in a couple of movies, particularly, okay, no chimps. So I think Gorillas in the Mist for a long time.
Gorillas are a different thing because you could build up so much, but a chimp, the anatomy is just too weird. The distance from your neck to your hips is so strange, and then the length of the arms comparatively.
Yes, you're right.
So this is some stuff. These are parts from Mandalorian. This is Cara Dune's armor, and so when we do this stuff, we'll start off making just a foam fabricated one. And then we'll prime it, and then we mold it, and then we make these rubber castings for stunts, so that way they could flex when she's fighting and everything. And these are like her thigh pad, and this is from one of the bounty hunters on that. And these are her things that are on her boots. But yeah, so sometimes we'll foam fabricate a piece, same way that the cosplayers do, and then we'll mold it and cast it out of a semi-rigid plastic or a rubber. Like Gideon's armor, it's kind of a flexible hard plastic. But that's all that's Gideon stuff. And then here's some more displays. So this is a suit that we built for Stranger Things. We built the contamination suits on those. And
how get involved in that? Just in the same way that someone in the department on the movie then asked you to, as a specialist costumer, to make that how it works.
Yeah, pretty much. I worked a little bit on Westworld, and one of the assistant costume designers on Westworld then went on to work on Wrinkle in Time, and then hired us to do some Wrinkle in Time. And then she went on to be the designer for Stranger Things season 3. And she said, "Hey, we need these costumes. You want to take a stab at it?" So I did the sketches and the drawings for her, and then this. And I actually put a little an Easter egg in this. I try to sneak little Easter eggs in the costumes just because I know everybody, people like Brandon Allinger love this stuff.
Yeah.
Belt buckle on these costumes. These are actually belt buckles from the Rocketeer. So I found the source of these reproduction belt buckles from Rocketeer. So I've been peppering Rocketeer belt buckles into costumes for a couple of years. And then this is a copy of Isaac, who's the android on this TV show Orville. And we worked on that costume for season 1 and 2. And then this is a kind of a post-apocalyptic armor we did for a TV show that was on Apple TV called C. It's got Jason Momoa in it, and everybody's blind. So we did tons and tons of armor, and we did all these helmets out of that. And just like with Star Wars, where you need to make a ton of helmets really fast, we took a page out of that. And all of the helmets are clear vacuum forms that we would just paint to make look like this rusted metal. And so that was, it's the same technique everybody's been using since the 70s.
Uh-huh.
And these are some costumes we did for a video game company called Blizzard. We made these fish creatures called Murlocs, and then this suit of armor for a commercial for their video game called Hearthstone. So that's kind of display stuff. Let me shoot over into the back of the shop.
It's a big shop you've got there.
It's 14,000 square feet. It's enormous.
Wow.
So this is kind of the entrance to this area. Here's that full body 3D scanner I was telling you about. So this is a big photogrammetry scanner. So it's like 86 cameras that, you know, an actor will stand in the middle there, and all the cameras go off at once, and then we have all their CG data, and we can mill out those body forms. Then this is our costume workroom, where we do all of the sewing. We have a bunch of industrial machines, big work tables, and it's nice and blank now because we haven't been working in 43 days or something like that. Yeah, just more costumes. And then back here, this is kind of our fabrication area. Our head fabricator sits right there, a guy named Gary Crowell. I actually met him at a convention in Atlanta called Dragon Con, and we became buddies back then. He's just another cosplayer, and he's one of my best friends now. And him and another girl named Sarah now work for me. And I met them at a convention, just, you know, hanging out doing cosplay stuff. And then this is our machine shop. So we have a mill and a lathe, and then we have a CNC mill over here. So we do a lot of, just like with the 3D printers, we do a lot of, you know, computer controlled milling and all the fancy stuff. We really like to embrace the new technologies in everything that we do, as well as the traditional stuff. And then here's kind of the paint area. We have a big spray booth, and then this is my desk. It's a little bit of a mess. There's some various projects that I've been tinkering on, and I got to get back to. So I also built on tested.com. I built a costume of the Rancor, and so this is my Rancor costume. So now he kind of flips over the shop
in the street or something, didn't I?
Yeah. I actually was walking around in the middle of the street in San Diego with this, so that was pretty fun. And then back here we have our wood shop. It's also a mess right now because I'm kind of moving some stuff around, but it's, you know, standard wood shop stuff. And then we have a big CNC mill back there from a company called Avid CNC, and that's what we mill out all of our body forms on. We mill it all out of foam. We could do wood and all kinds of other materials, but this is kind of where we do all the sanding and grinding and dusty stuff. And it kind of keeps all the dust back here. And then we have a big kind of open bay here. Sometimes we build bigger things and we need more space. Like sometimes we do these giant statues. So we built this statue for Fox Sports that went all the way up to the ceiling. It was 14 feet tall. So this is kind of where we do all the big stuff. And we got some welding supplies. And then I actually left my keys upstairs, so I can't show you the inside of it, but our mold shop is next door.
Okay.
And so mold shop's in there. So there's another 4,000 square feet where that stuff is. But it's just like everything else. It's a building with a spray booth and tables and.
You know, you've got more space there than. I mean, when we did the creatures for Empire Strikes Back, you know, I talk about that as being a big workshop,
yeah.
And that was probably only about 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, this is it's big. You know, we do more than just like film and TV. If it was just film and TV, I could probably get away with about half of this space. But we do a lot of stuff for various theme parks, and we do all these big statues for the video game industry, and we just need more space because of all these other projects that we do.
That's a good thing to do, to diversify, because one of the things in life, you know, if you put all your eggs in one basket, it's easy to get all your eggs broken. Yep. I mean, that's partly what I'm suffering from right now. I'm in a Caribbean island where everything is dependent on tourism, where there's lots of tourists normally, and then when something like this hit, you're in a situation that you basically have only, I got to wait for America to recover and for Europe to recover, for people then get enough money to get to buy a plane ticket or buy a cruise and have confidence to get on the boat to come back here. So, you know, when other people are saying, oh, we want to get up and running, you know, in July, you know, I'm looking at December. So, you know, it is, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing stuff on the internet, just to try and find another way to reach out and keep everything going. So I think you're very right to have something in the gaming industry, something, you know, in even shop displays and making displays for for different companies. I think you're doing. I think what you've done is an extraordinary achievement in itself.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's actually the theme park stuff that's keeping me busy right now. Like the one theme park that we do a lot of work for has been hounding me to get to these budgets that they want, so that they could get us rolling as soon as we reopen. And,
right.
I've just been, to be honest, just too lazy to actually do anything with all the the way everything is. I just kind of don't even want to work right now. So
it seems to me that things now are broken up much more than they were in our day. You are very typically an all-round guy, right? In fact, you're gonna. If I tell you you're doing everything except for blowing things up, you'll probably show you're blowing something up, right?
No, I haven't blown anything up. I mean, not that I'm legally not
right. But whereas now every time I look at something, I say, oh yeah, well this was a makeup that was designed by this guy, and then it was sculpted by this guy, and then it was molded by this guy, and then it was put on by this guy, and to me, I might give one guy a project, but I expect to see it go through. The industry changes over time.
Yeah, some shops are more compartmentalized than others. The people that I work with, I keep a relatively small core crew, and they're pretty all around. They could do a little bit of everything. They all have their specialties, but everybody stays pretty well rounded. On a typical day, my core crew is about 13 to 15 people, and then when we ramp up to bigger shows, it's like last year it was around 30. I like it when I have a smaller crew. We get to work on stuff more intimately that way. It's not, just a big machine trying to churn stuff out. And I like when people are able to do a little bit of everything. And I think everybody likes that too.
Also, the productions themselves, the more they give you, the more they expect to chisel a bit off here and a bit off there and a bit off something else. And it's like you can be the first guy who does something. The second guy, they want more, but they want cheaper than the first guy. And then they want more, but they want it cheaper than the second guy. And so there's always that chiseling, and they also want it quicker, right? So
it's always trying to find that balance. Sorry, my throat's getting dry from talking so much.
That's all right. Take it easy. Yeah.
Not the Rona, I promise.
So without asking you anything specific about Mandalorian Series 2, are you doing anything for that? Or are you not?
I'm not allowed to say, but I think by me saying that I'm not allowed to say is probably enough.
Yeah, that's enough. The bottom line is, I don't think everyone quite understands, but when we're making these movies, they're worried that people are gonna leak the storyline or the script or those other things, and until that series comes out, you've got to be really cautious and careful about what you say and what you do. They seem to be much worse now than they were before. I was talking to the guys that were working in England in the studio on the new movies, and they said, oh well, when you go from the wardrobe department to the sound stage, they have special drapes that they put over the people to make sure that they're photographed by drones, and they got to walk in this particular way, and the guy who you can be working on the movie but not allowed into the sound. They did that a little bit on Empire, but really not that much.
Yeah, and I understand, when you have a big company with an enormous investment in that property and in that project, and we have this with literally every client we have, whether it's a video game company or a theme park or film and TV, they're rightfully precious with all of that information, and they want to be able to release that information at the pace that they want. They don't want something leaked out early if they may have had a plan in motion to leak that through PR or something like that. So they might have some expensive marketing campaign to let a certain piece of information out, and if it gets squeaked out, then they've lost money on that. And so that's
in the day, Lucas, people would have things, there'd be characters that's like, Super Shadow or whoever that was leaking stuff about, and we've got these photographs that have just come out and they've been sneaked out of the studio, when actually all of that was stuff that was being, released through the through the publicity department to just to get people talking. So that, you know, they have their plan of what it is, but they're very specific about what they want to let people know ahead of time.
And it's tricky because as an artist and as a fan of this stuff, you're so excited about it that you want to share it because you're so excited. You know, like when I worked on Force Awakens, it was a year and a half until I got to even talk about working on that. You know, to work on a Star Wars film when we haven't seen any since the prequels, like that was like having to go to the bathroom for 2.5 years and you had to just hold it. Then you were finally able to let it go, and it just felt so good. But you know, like, and it's really hard to explain that to the general public, that you just can't talk about this stuff. And that's part of our job. Like, if you want to be able to freely post the work that you do and your artwork and everything like that, then you should do your own personal artwork, because what we do, we're doing commercial art or corporate art. Somebody is paying us money for us to do something and keep our mouth shut. It's not about the credit. It's not about the accolades. It's not about anything else. Somebody's literally paying us to build this for them. And if they want to release it at whatever pace they want, that's their prerogative because they're paying us.
I get people that come into my museum and they'll say, "Oh, do you still get royalties from making Yoda?" And I go, "Well, we don't get any royalties." On that. We wouldn't have, if we'd insisted on royalties, they'd have gone and given the job to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
It's their project, it's their stuff. You sign off, and someone said to me, "Don't you feel like you've been cheated?" I said, "No, because you know, here I am. People come and see me. If I hadn't done those jobs, I wouldn't be the guy that I am right now." And so, no, I don't feel cheated. I knew what I was getting into when I signed the contract.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's something that for some artists and some people it's hard to understand, especially newer artists or, you know, people that are cosplayers that are trying to break into the professional industry. It's a total different world. Like, we're not building this stuff so that we can put it up on our Instagram. We're building this stuff for a client. So yeah, no, it's I appreciate it, and I abide by those rules pretty strictly, and it's worked out fine.
Yeah, well, that's great. It's been nice to to go through that with you, and I'm surprised at the size of your facility there, because that must be a real handful to try and to keep maintained through.
Yeah, it's tricky. I've been able to make some smart business decisions along the way, so I'm not in a bad position.
Okay.
So we're gonna stay alive until we're on the other end of it. So it'll be good.
That's cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna look forward to seeing what you're up to in the future. But is there anything special that you want us to tell people that how they should follow you or contact you?
Yeah, we're pretty visible in social media. All the THINGERGY social media and all of my Frank Ippolito social media. We monitor that pretty well, so it's pretty easy to find.
Frank, thank you very much. It's been a delight to talk to you, and hopefully you'll come join us maybe when we're doing the next event that we do is the cosplay event. Maybe you'll come and talk about making armor or
talk about materials.
All right. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right. Take care. See you. Bye.
Bye.
So that was talking to Frank. That was actually part of the very first STARnet events broadcast that we did, what we called STARnet #1, which was pretty ambitious too, because we actually had 8 panels in a single day, which kind of wore me out. But it's kind of nice now. I've learned that people can look forward to listening to a 1-hour show every Sunday, rather than feeling like they got to dedicate the whole day. I want to thank you for tuning in and being part of what we were doing here today. Of course, I want to thank Frank for showing us around his workshop. It's really nice to be able to see how you know, a big shop like that operates, and all the facilities that they have in place to you know, to make stuff for different industries. If you enjoyed what you're doing, you know, you can rewatch this if you want to anytime over the next couple of weeks, which is the same for all our STARnet panels. Please consider being a supporter. You know, these STARnet webcasts were started to thank our patrons. These are people who support us through this terrible economic crash that COVID has imposed on us via Patreon. And what they do there is, you know, they donate $5 or $10 or something to help our nonprofit foundation continue to encourage people like you and youngsters and oldsters to follow their dreams and be all that they can be. We're in the Caribbean and everything has come to a halt here, waiting for the ships to return. Even when the ships return, they're not going to let their passengers walk through town. So we are in this for at least, I think, another year. All income, if you do donate something through Patreon or if you buy something from us, all income goes to the foundation. And that's about it, really. I hope that you'll join us again next week. It'll be the same time and pretty much the same place. This is Nick Maley, that Yoda guy, saying, you know, have a great week and may the Force expand your horizons and be with you always.